Since I got the Skuxx here, I want to do a couple comparison videos. I have a couple other half slices still that I haven't sold. I have my Hotwhip 72 here, and I got a Rewind. Start with the Hotwhip 72 here. This is actually my favorite half slice to date. Just looking at the bows here, and these are very similar specs, so just let me tell you here. The Skuxx is 8 foot in length, and the Hotwhip 2 is 8 foot from what they say online. With the Skuxx 26.8 to 26.5 on the Hotwhip, so very similar there too. Weight of the actual boat, 42 pounds, and the Skuxx is 44 pounds. Volume, we got 72 obviously on the Hotwhip and 70 on the Skuxx. If you get the Deluxe, it adds a couple volume, three gallons, that's a 73. Weight range, 110 to 198 on the regular Skuxx, 132 to 265 if you get the puffy. I don't know about that. And then 120 to 240. Also don't agree with 240 on that either. There's some specs. They're very similar in specs, but the actual design is pretty different when you're looking at the boats. Let's start off here. I'm just gonna measure the bow rocker on each boat. I like to do that just to kind of get an idea. From the deck to kind of the parting line there, we'll just do the tip of the bow, make it even. So that's 13 and a half. 13 and a half for the Hotwhip. And then the Skuxx to the tip of the boat is almost 14, a little less. So pretty similar on bow rocker. I will say this, so when you're paddling, this feels like it has more bow rocker, and this just feels flatter. I don't know, it's weird, but anyway, they're about the same on bow rockers. Coming around to the stern, I think this is gonna be the bigger difference here. The Skuxx is right at kind of like 9.5. I'm going like in between the tail here, 9.5, close to 10 inches. And then the Hotwhip, yeah, this is gonna be a big difference. See, the Hotwhip in the middle there is 12. So that's almost 2.5 inches difference in the stern rocker. And that's probably one of the biggest difference between these two boats. The other difference is gonna be right here in the, where the cockpits are. This cockpit is significantly higher. Let's look here. Sorry about the camera. I get one hand, working with one hand here. So if you can do the kind of the highest point, I want to say it's looking a little vertical. So it's 16 and a half there versus highest point here, probably 14. I know it looks weird on camera, but actually looking in person, yeah, so that's quite a big difference, and you can definitely tell when you're sitting in it. I'll do that in a second too. Yeah, that's going to be one of the biggest differences of the boat, is how the height of the cockpit rim when it comes up to kind of your chest. And then I think probably here is going to be another difference. Let's see, like right behind the hips here. Well, I guess it shouldn't be since they're both width about the same, but let's see. Looks about like 24 inches. Actually, that is a decent amount behind the hips. 20, looks like 23. So another kind of an inch back here. And then the actual sterns looks like 9.5 to about 8.5 there. So an inch wider kind of at the stern and at behind the hips than the Hotwhip. And then the bow, as you can see there, the bow kind of tapers off and rounds off pretty well here up front, where the bow here kind of stays flat. If you paddled the Stoke or Steves, it kind of has that similar bow feeling to that, which is good. They're good bows, both of them. And the height of the actual rim looks similar, like where your skirt goes on. That looks pretty good. Obviously, you got your differences outfitting here. I do prefer the Waka over the Liquidlogic. The Waka is kind of minimalistic in the fact that it's not fancy, but it just works really well. And that's, you know, I don't love the thigh hooks on here. I don't have the Gorilla grip. If you had the Gorilla grip, they'd probably be pretty similar. But the bulkhead and stuff, you can see the bulkhead is just a lot better made in the Waka with this reinforcement and stuff here. And I love this little area right here. You can put a throw rope, water bottle, and some other things, where this isn't really made for anything, to be quite honest. You have to kind of do your own contraption there. will say I sit a little better in the Hotwhip. This I sit kind of low. Again, that has to do with how high that cockpit comes up. I'll just get in here real quick. I do have my shoes on, full kind of gear from work here. But you can kind of see how high this comes up. Kind of see, maybe this will show it here. I don't know. It's kind of hard to show, but anyway. But this does come up fairly high. So maybe you can see when you kind of swap back and forth on the video, but I don't know. But it's definitely higher in the Skuxx. That's just a personal preference. It's not necessarily a good or bad thing in design. Technically, if you sit down lower in a boat, you should be a little more stable, but kind of less control. If you sit up higher, you have a little more control, less stable. In theory, how that should work. But you can definitely tell here, the sterns, again, this is kind of flatter, less rocker, but wider. And this has a little bit more rocker and a little bit narrower. I will give you kind of a hint here. This is a little bit easier to stern squirt, probably less capable down river, and this is a little harder to stern squirt, not like significantly harder or anything, and probably more capable down river. I'll give you a shot from here to kind of show you also. You can really see the difference in sterns right there. How kind of the Hotwhip really slants up with that rocker and the Skuxx kind of stays flat. All right, so the holes on these boats are actually quite a bit different. So this kind of has your standard hole design, a pretty sharp edge here. It carved really nicely and all that, and it kind of tapers down and kind of rubs off here at the bow. This actually comes down a little further, and this kind of has like a double rail on it. A lot like if you've seen the Jackson Rockstars, they have a double rail. So this has a pretty sharp rail in here to begin with, definitely sharper than this one. And the outside is kind of a second stability area here. This whole surf so well, and it really stays engaged in a wave and like stays on the wave. And when I'll show you my first kind of paddle, you can see that it's really easy to stay on a wave. Like when you're starting to drop off, it engages right back in. This thing is going to be awesome surfing overall, really good surfing. This is good too, but this just surfs a little bit better, and I feel like if I got in a hole, man, I could really get out with this. It really engages and spins really nicely. Not saying this is bad in any means, just saying that's the difference I noticed. And you can kind of tell this is a flatter hole where this kind of has some roundness to it. And I will say, going over some rapids, when kind of turning into eddy lines, this is a little softer and this is sharper. And that's not a bad thing either. Sometimes you want to slow down. Sometimes you want to be a little less aggressive. So again, that's more of a paddling style. This also has a little bit of negative rocker here. And that's supposed to kind of help you on drops and things like that when you come out of drops. But I don't know how well it actually does. I will say the plastic, I don't know if Waka's changed something, but it seems a little bit softer than usual. I mean, this is a New River Gorge. You can kind of see it looks like I've been on concrete. That's a little soft for my liking in plastic. I'll just say that. We'll see how it holds up on time. That's not an indicator that the boat's going to be bad. That's just kind of what I'm saying right now. And this kind of, I've used this a long time. You can see the plastic's held up pretty good. Just some utility things on the boat. This does have one more grab handle, which is nice loading boats. And if you're in a bad situation, you never know, it could come in handy. The back's pretty similar there. As far as styling, I both think they look like good boats. Obviously, this has a little more, again, you're getting a little more what you pay for. This is ingrained in the boat. It's not a sticker. Same with the back. The outfitting's better. The ratchets are better. All that kind of stuff. This retails for $13.99. I think this is now going for $18.50. That's a big difference, you know, 500 bucks. So is it worth it to you? You know, that's up to you, I guess. These are both solid half slices designs, and you're not going to be unhappy with either one. So if you're kind of a Waka fan, go for the Skuxx. If you love the Hotwhip, go for the Hotwhip. I will say this is, again, it's probably going to be a little more capable downriver, the Skuxx, than the Hotwhip. If you want to play more, do easier stern squirts, the Hotwhip's going to be your boat. But again, in the weight ranges and every specs are pretty similar. So if you're looking for Skuxx, hit up Calleva. They have them currently in stock, I believe. I know I pre-ordered mine like 3 months ago, finally got it in. But they were good with communication, everything like that. If you do have to pre-order one, they keep you updated pretty constantly throughout the process. And yeah, we will see you on the water.